Hi, my name is Jill Hilliard. I live in Middle Tennessee. I'm married. I have two kids. Heather's 24, Taylor's 14. I want to borrow a few minutes of your life and tell you about something that happened to me July the 15th, 2007. I was in a horrible car crash with my two kids. We were T-boned. We left the house going to a convenience store, and we were going through the green light, and a Nissan Frontier truck hit us, T-boned us on my side. I was sitting on the passenger side. My daughter was driving, and my son was directly behind me in the back seat. And yeah, it's horrible, awful, terrible. People have wrecks every day. The only difference on this one is a little bit is, well, the driver of the truck, Jonathan Finley, was almost 3 times the legal limit. And he just left work at Nissan Motor Manufacturing. He drove 4 minutes from that parking lot to that intersection and hit us. They airlifted my son because he was pretty cut up, and he had a really bad cut on his right arm, to Vanderbilt Medical Center in Nashville, Tennessee, as well as they did me. My daughter walked away with a sprained ankle, and she was cut up and bruised up really bad, but that was because she was the furthest away from impact. They got me to Vanderbilt, and I ended up having to have emergency surgery. They had to remove my spleen and sew up my liver, and I'd really go into the further details, but it's a little more gruesome than I think some people need to hear. So I'm gonna link my blog, and if you need to or want to read the entire wreck, it's there at your convenience. Anyway, I stayed in the hospital for about 2 months, and I was in a coma for 11 days, and they ended up having to put a trach in, and it took 6 months in and out of 5 surgeries, and then it took me about 2 years to really fully recover. And but even after the fact, after all the wounds are healed, I was angry at Mr. Finley. We did 10 months, and he got 8 years in jail for what he did. Here's the kicker to the story, though, is that when he went into work to ask for the night off, the reason he asked for the night off was because he had another DUI to attend that next morning, which that absolutely blew me away, that he was going to show up, to his first, DUI, hearing at the courthouse, suffering a hangover. That blew me away. But that's what he was going to do. And I spent a lot of time really not liking Mr. Finley. But, at some point, I hope that the time that he is spending in jail turns his life around. That maybe that's what all this is about, is, him taking a moment and seeing that, drinking and driving, he could have killed us. He could have killed me and took me away from my kids, or killed one of my kids, and, I'm hoping he gets it. Well, then it went a step further because of how long I've, I guess, put off doing this, writing the blog, doing the video, is I got to thinking, okay, yeah, it's really selfish to drink and drive. But once you get to drinking, you kind of shoot common sense away when you're drunk. I can drive, I'm good. Well, then I got to thinking, what about the bar that he left, or his house? Were there friends there that just let him walk away drunk? Did he stop at a convenience store and get a pack of cigarettes? Did the guy behind the counter see him, knew he was drunk, and just let him go? He had to sit through a 10-minute meeting at work. They had to have smelled it on him. They had to have known it. There's no way you could have not known, as drunk as he was, that he was drunk. But then, and that's when I was like, all right, well, here's how we do it, okay? We've become a nation a culture, you know, of people that are like, I don't want to get involved. You know, it ain't my business, you know. No, I don't get that. I would love to get that. And I'm sure most people do get that, but I don't get that. When I was 22 years old, I worked in a factory. I had a boss. We had an employee come in, and he was drunk. I mean, I don't know how he didn't kill somebody getting to us. But, you know, God's grace, he made it there. And he was doing the same thing that Mr. Finley was going to do. He was going to ask for, you know, I'm sick, want to go home, you know. And my boss sat him down, gave him a stack of papers, and told him that she needed him to check some stuff before he left. Well, it took him 3.5 hours to check all this stuff that she gave him. And then he went home. But he was sober when he got in his car and went home. I'll give you another one that has to do with me. And I'm the worst person. I don't like being put in the spotlight. You know, I'm one of them people. But when it's called of me, I found I can do it. I have done it. I was coming home from picking my son up at the babysitter's. I got off the interstate, went under the interstate bridge. Well, the other ramp, this lady came off of it right in front of me. I hit her in her back quarter panel. So anyway, I jump out of the truck, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And she drives off, and I'm like, what? And as she's driving off, I can see there are two little kids in the back seat. And so I follow her. And she stops, gets back out again, and I can tell at this point that what I thought at that time, I thought she was drunk. But later on, they found out that she was just really had a lot of prescription drugs in her system. And but she was begging me not to call the police, that she would get in trouble. And I looked at her and I was like, ma'am, you've got your kids in that car. And she jumps in the car and takes off again. So I call 911. I call, you know, I tell them what has happened and that I'm following her. And I followed her till the police showed up and arrested her. Yeah, I could have went home. I could have said, forget this. She didn't hurt my truck that bad. You know, that was an extra step I didn't have to take. I could have just called the police and said, look, I've been hit. They've ran off. But I didn't. I put my car into drive and I followed her. Because there was no way I could walk away. And here is this woman who at the time I thought was drunk, driving around with her 1-year-old and her 2-year-old in the back seat. So, you know, here's my thing. All I'm asking is, if you see somebody drunk, whether you're at a bar, at a convenience store, at work, wherever, and you think they're drunk, they're, you know, really showing signs of being drunk, call the police. Tell them, say, I seen this man. He's driving an F-150 Ford green truck. He is headed out south on I-24, you know, just giving you a heads up. That's all you got to do, because I understand. Nobody wants to put their hand on somebody's shoulder, turn them around and tell them they're too drunk and you need their keys. You know, that's a good way to get punched in the face. I got that. I wouldn't even want to do that. But nowadays, you have a cell phone. It's easy to make that phone call. And you never know how many lives you might save. So, I hope this gets to the ears of whoever needs to hear it, because it has been laying on my heart for probably 1.5 years now. And I really didn't want to do this. I just want to bury this. But it won't stay buried. So anyway, I'm going to leave a link for the people that do want to read the entire wreck and the whole gruesome tale. And anyway, hope to see you later for better reasons. Thank you.